another object, whatever it is a reflection of you. So when I'm writing, every person that comes into it, everything that happens, the little objects feel like just like little pieces of me, like Horcrux. If we're allowed to use a word from Harry Potter,
Right.
I know it's very volatile right now because of J.K. Rowling, but like a Horcrux, where Voldemort has shoved his soul into these various objects.
Right.
I feel like that happens with writing. You know, there are little pieces of me in it, little pieces, but it's one, ingredient in the whole thing. Like Paul was making his Alice the Cat cupcakes earlier, and right? There's like sugar, there's butter, there's the cream, there's all this stuff. It's one ingredient in there to put a little bit of yourself in, but a lot of it bubbles up from the subconscious. So it's like, what's like, what's really happening?
Do you feel revealed or exposed with having a published novel in a different way?
Yes. It is so scary. It's really scary.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I was working with a PR firm and they were sending like a report every 10 days. They would send all of the people who were requesting interviews and podcasts and Q&As and all this stuff, and then also there was like all the pages of the reviews. And in the early days I was like checking them out because I was curious. I was like, what do people think of it? I mean, it's going out to so many people all over the world, and some people just loved it and got it, and other people were like, so toxic, so cruel. I was so misunderstood. Really missed the mark. And you have to face it.
Right.
You have to face it. You have to let it go.
Right. Right. You have to not care what people say about you, even if what they say is wrong.
It's brave putting something out into the world. It's an act of bravery. Everyone seems to think it's this happy-go-lucky, jolly.
It's like, your book's out. Are you just so excited?
Yeah.
You're like, no, my vagina is
Yes.
I'm not excited. My vagina.
We're gonna quote. I'm sweating. That was so funny. I'm not excited. That's my vagina. Yes.
Even if it's completely fictional, there's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always something, but it's still your body part.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of you to talk about. And you mentioned about having a team behind you, but yet 90% of it is what you do yourself.
Yeah.
And it's now being an author today with social media and self-promotion and tweeting and posting and all of that, how much of that is required now of the writer and the self-promotion and that aspect of it? Can you talk a little bit about that? Is like, and
I do a lot of it.
Do you do it every day? Like you get up and scroll things and reply and post and tweet and all that because you have to?
I mean, I am now because I'm in launch mode.
Yeah.
But I think it will slow down at a certain point. But you want to utilize what's available to you to get the word out, because it's really hard to launch a book into the world, and you just want it to find its audience. And we were talking about this backstage, where it's just like that one person that receives it and it means everything to them. Then it was all worth it.
Right.
But it's also a good way for me to kind of keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening out there, right? Because it's like, with social media and the artist's relationship with it, whether it's a good or a bad thing, I'm still curious about it.
Do you track like the rankings of where it is on lists or on genres, or say Amazon sale rankings and all that stuff?
A fellow author from my publisher, Jude, who wrote a book called Maybe There Are Witches, which is really good. He sent me a text saying, "Do you know that your book is #1 on Amazon?" And I was like, "What?" That's not true. There's a million books on Amazon. Lo and behold, you know what their lists. If you go to like the teen and young adult, go sci-fi,
Right,
fantasy,
yeah.
under ghost stories, it was number one. It was the number one new release.
Congratulations.
For the first 2 weeks that it was out.
That's amazing.
And at first I was like, is this a joke?
Right.
But then I'm also like, but what does this really mean? I don't know. If it means I get to guess on the book number 2,
Yeah.
that's all I want.
Yeah.
I don't need to become rich. I don't need money off of this. I'd love for somebody to option it and turn it into a brilliant movie, TV show, or animated feature.
Right,
That would be amazing.
yeah.
But I really am just all about what gets me to book number 2. So if saying that you had a book that was number 1 on Amazon for a couple of weeks,
Right,
then I'll take it.
yes.
But aside from that, no. I wouldn't even think, because the thing about authors and Amazon is it's a very toxic relationship. Publishers don't want you to use Amazon for people to buy books, because you don't get any residuals off of it, really.
Yeah, some, but
Yeah.
not, it's not.
Yeah, it's not, you know, the publisher is always saying, have your people buy it directly from us. Then you and I will get the most amount of royalties off of it.
Right,
So you kind of tend to stay away from Amazon as much as you can, but then you're like, it is the biggest, globally, it is the biggest book seller.
You said you don't get any residuals off Amazon? You get nothing?
you do.
You do, but not a
it's
lot.
Not as much as if people buy from an independent bookstore or from directly from the publisher.
Yeah. Yeah, it trickles down pretty significantly. So, I mean, I'm just trying to keep my finger on the pulse of how to deal with all that. And also, like, how are we going to fight AI? It's so frustrating. It's like, listen, yeah, honestly, it's like, AI has come along and it's like, can't you help get the trash out of the ocean? Why are you coming after writers? Writers don't, yeah, it's like what Justine Bateman is saying in her social media post. It's like, AI is supposed to solve a problem. Writers and what's happening in the entertainment industry does not have a problem that AI needs to solve, except for greedy, lazy people who don't want to work with artists. So I think it's another way to just figure out how to deal with all of that. You know, I got really good at, you know, Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign because I'm an office manager of a big architecture firm, and I have to do a lot of that stuff. And the people in that firm are such whizzes at that. Oh my God, and it is not easy.
No,
You know, like, they're like 10-week courses for level 1.
right,
But I self-taught and learned how to do all of it, and so I've been, you know, helping to create social media posts just to get the word out. Yeah, but it's exhausting. I mean, I remember the day the book came out, I said to Paul, I was like, I am so tired. It hasn't even come out yet. and
Right.
I'm so exhausted.
right. I'm trying to build the excitement,
Yeah.
post and
Yeah.
connect.
But then when people respond to it, I mean, you sent me a text earlier today that put me into tears, Heather. She had just finished reading it.
I've been crying all day. All day.
Yeah, when friends and people in your life have an experience with it, it's really, really spectacular. When a stranger has an experience with it. I had some reviewer who runs this big podcast just gush about it for 30 minutes, and I was like, holy shit.
Right.
In a way, it's like theater, though, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
the reviews are all exciting and awards are wonderful when they come. But it's the person that grabs you outside on the sidewalk and said, my uncle was an alcoholic and I've never seen, or the plan just saw it, you know, it changed my life. But I just, it's those things that we hold on to.
It's a conversation.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you really changed someone's life in some way, or had some kind of a personal impact. That's what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know?
And with this book, you know, ultimately, at the end of it, it's a story of grief. It goes from grief to hope.
Yeah,
Grief to hope.
yeah,
And I guess maybe that's a big thing for me.
yeah,
Yeah, sure.
right.
Yeah.
Is it Pauline?
Yeah. Pauline. Pauline. Yeah.
Tim, you mentioned that you got some criticism, some
Yeah.
negative feedback. Is any of that in the realm of what's happening in terms of the, you know, the counterculture issues, the cultural war issues going on, and
Yeah.
the book banning issue, and what
Yeah.
can or cannot be said in a YA novel? Are you dealing with any of that?
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about what that conversation is?
I mean, there's a lot
On
of
the
middle,
inside?
there's a lot of middle grade gatekeeping where people come up and say this, this, and this can and cannot be, or should not be included in a book intended for this readership. But it's weird. I mean, middle grade and YA is already under intense scrutiny just by the nature of it. But then they break it up into like lower middle grade, upper middle grade, lower YA, upper YA. It's like in middle grade, you know, you can't say a curse word or talk about sex. But a year later, the protagonist could be a crackhead, junkie, hooker, living in a dumpster with her pimp, and she's 15. That's fine for YA, right? So it's like, wow, the lines.
Yeah.
So I call it gatekeeping, and yes, there have been some people who have said, how dare this old white guy write in the voice of a 13-year-old mixed race female and talk about her body and talk about cancer and talk about mental illness. No.
Right.
And they said, you know, he's gross. I mean, that was one that I was like, wow, they're calling me gross. Okay. And then, you know, when you read it, you're like, am I gross? No, dude, think about it. I spent the day kind of being like, what if she has a point? What if I'm gross?
Right.
Okay, I guess I'm gross.
Right.
I'm gross. It's like, all right, I'm gross. It was not my intention, and I apologize if I offended anyone.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I really apologize. I mean, I think the punk rock part of me is like, fuck off, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So what is your book rated as? What is it considered?